It all started with a big dream, one that felt like a bright, shiny star in my mind. I remember the day so clearly. The sun was streaming through my window, and I had this amazing idea pop into my head. It wasn't just a small thought, it was a huge, exciting project that made my heart beat faster. I wanted to create something wonderful, something that would help lots of people. It felt like planting a tiny seed, but I knew, deep down, that this seed had the power to grow into a giant, beautiful tree. I spent days just thinking about it, drawing pictures in my notebook, and writing down all my ideas. Every time I thought about this project, a big smile would spread across my face. It was going to be my masterpiece, my special gift to the world. I felt a rush of excitement, like when you're about to open a really big present on your birthday. I could almost taste the success, see the happy faces of the people I would help. I told my best friend, Lily, about it, and her eyes lit up too. "That's an amazing idea," she exclaimed, which made me feel even more confident. Her encouragement was like water for my little seed, helping it feel stronger already. I imagined all the steps I would take, the fun I would have, and the joy I would feel when it was all done. I was super excited, full of energy and hope. This wasn't just a project, it was an adventure, and I was ready to jump in with both feet. I couldn't wait to get started and watch my big dream begin to take shape. With my big dream firmly planted and my friend Lily's encouragement echoing in my ears, it was time to get to work. And boy, did I work. I plunged into the project with all the energy of a superhero. It wasn't just a few hours here and there, it was day and night, like a busy ant building its home, never stopping until the job was done. My kitchen table became my command center, covered in papers, pens, and my trusty laptop. I spent countless hours researching, reading books, and watching videos. My eyes would sometimes feel tired, but my mind was always buzzing with new ideas. I learned new computer programs, which felt a bit like learning a secret language at first, but I kept trying until I understood. There were times I would forget to eat because I was so focused, or I'd look up and realize the moon had replaced the sun in the sky. Each small step felt like a victory. Finishing one part of the project was like placing a perfect puzzle piece. I would cheer for myself, even if no one else was around. Lily would sometimes call, asking if I was still alive, and I'd laugh, telling her I was just lost in my work. Sleep became a luxury, but the thought of my dream coming true kept me going. I knew that big dreams needed big effort, and I was ready to give it my all. The early excitement had turned into a steady, powerful drive, pushing me forward through every challenge. I was building my tree, leaf by tiny leaf, branch by branch. I had been working so hard, pushing forward with all my might, when suddenly, the smooth path I was on turned bumpy and unclear. Trouble started to arrive, slowly at first, like a few dark clouds appearing in a sunny sky. What had seemed so simple and clear became tough and confusing, like a puzzle with missing pieces. I would work on one part, only to find it didn't fit with another, or a new problem would pop up where I least expected it. The computer programs I had learned with such effort started to act strangely, showing error messages I couldn't understand. It felt like they were speaking a different language all of a sudden. I'd spend hours trying to fix one thing, only for two more things to break. My kitchen table, once a proud command center, now felt like a battlefield covered in confusing notes and crumpled papers. The happy buzz in my mind turned into a worried hum. I started to doubt myself. Was I smart enough? Did I even know what I was doing? The excitement I felt at the beginning began to fade, replaced by a heavy feeling in my chest. It was like trying to walk through thick mud. Every step was a struggle. I couldn't see the finish line anymore, and the big, beautiful tree I imagined seemed to be shrinking, getting lost in a fog of problems. The easy victories were gone, and all that was left were tangled knots I couldn't seem to untie. Each day brought a new challenge, and the joy of creation slowly slipped away, leaving me feeling lost. As the problems piled up and the confusion deepened, a heavy blanket of sadness began to cover me. The bright, shiny star of my dream felt like it was dimming, and the joyful feeling I once had vanished. I felt sad and wanted to stop, like a balloon losing its air and slowly floating down to the ground. All the energy and excitement that had filled me up just drained away. My once bustling kitchen table, still covered in papers, now just made me feel tired whenever I looked at it. I didn't want to touch anything, to try and fix another problem. The thought of spending more hours wrestling with confusing computer codes or trying to untangle another knot in my plan filled me with dread. I started to sleep more, but even then, my mind wouldn't rest, replaying all the things that had gone wrong. Lily would call, and I'd make excuses not to talk much, not wanting to share how truly down I felt. It was hard to admit that my big, wonderful dream had turned into such a heavy burden. I questioned everything. My ability, my intelligence, even the idea itself. Maybe it wasn't a good idea after all. Maybe I wasn't meant to do this. The desire to simply walk away, to push all the papers into a box and forget about the whole thing, grew stronger each day. It felt like the easiest way out, a way to stop the constant ache of disappointment. My once strong tree felt like it was wilting, and I felt too weak to water it. I was at my lowest point, feeling completely lost and ready to give up on everything. The weight of my failed project pressed down on me, making it hard to even get out of bed. That's when my grandma called. She didn't know the full story of my struggles, but she must have heard something in my voice. We talked about small things at first, like the weather and her garden. Then, almost out of nowhere, she said something kind and smart, like a gentle whisper in the wind that truly caught my attention. "My dear," she began, her voice soft and warm, "remember that big oak tree in our backyard? It didn't grow strong overnight. It faced many storms, hot sun, and cold winters. But it never stopped reaching for the sky. Even when a branch broke, it grew new ones. Sometimes, the biggest challenges help us grow the strongest roots." Her words weren't a scolding or a demand. They were just a simple observation, but they hit me deep inside. It was a reminder that even nature's strongest things face hardships. She wasn't talking about my project directly, but it felt like she was. Her wisdom was like a tiny flashlight in my dark room, showing me a little bit of light. I thought about that old oak tree, how majestic it stood, and all the years it took to get there. My project was just a tiny seed compared to that, and it was still so young. Her voice, calm and full of love, was exactly what I needed to hear. It didn't magically fix all my problems, but it planted a tiny seed of courage where my sadness had been. Grandma's words about the old oak tree stayed with me, rustling softly in my mind long after our call ended. That evening, instead of just feeling sad, I started to think things over, like looking at a map to find my way after getting lost. I sat quietly, away from my messy kitchen table, and closed my eyes. I remembered the very first day, the sun shining, and the big, bright idea that had sparked in my head. Why did I start this project? What was the real reason? It wasn't just to make something cool, it was to help people, to make a small difference in the world. I pictured those happy faces I had imagined, the joy my project could bring. Was that still important to me? Yes, 1,000 times yes. The dream was still good, still worth fighting for. The problems were just like thorny bushes on the path, not the end of the road. I thought about all the hard work I had already put in, the late nights, the new skills I had learned. It felt like I had climbed halfway up a tall mountain. If I gave up now, all that effort would be for nothing. It would be like stopping right before seeing the view. I didn't want to regret giving up. My heart, which had felt so heavy, started to feel a tiny bit lighter. The image of the sturdy oak tree, growing stronger with every storm, came back to me. Maybe my roots needed to grow stronger too. I realized that the real treasure wasn't just finishing the project, but becoming a stronger person along the way. After carefully thinking things over, a tiny, warm feeling started to glow inside me. It wasn't a huge burst of sunshine, but more like a tiny flame in the dark. I found a little bit of strength inside me, a quiet whisper that said, "You can do this. Don't give up yet." It was a spark of hope, small but mighty, pushing back against the shadows of doubt that had surrounded me. This newfound strength wasn't about magically solving all my problems. It was about believing I could try again. It was the feeling of knowing that even if I failed, I would learn something important. The image of the strong oak tree came back, reminding me that even the biggest trees started as tiny sprouts and faced many challenges. My project was like that sprout, still growing, still learning. I picked up one of the crumpled papers from my kitchen table, a page filled with confusing notes. Instead of feeling a wave of dread, I felt a tiny bit of curiosity. What if I looked at it from a different angle? What if there was a simple answer I had missed because I was too sad to see it? This spark of hope made me want to explore, to poke at the problems gently instead of running away. It was a promise to myself that I wouldn't let my big dream just fizzle out. I would try one more time, with this new, quiet courage guiding me. The sadness hadn't completely vanished, but now, there was a small, bright light shining through it. With that tiny flame of hope flickering inside me, I took a deep breath. It was time. I decided to keep going, even though it was hard, like a brave knight on a new adventure, facing a scary dragon again. The fear hadn't completely vanished, but now I had a little shield of determination. I looked at my messy table, not as a place of defeat, but as a challenge to be conquered. The first step was just to clean up. I tidied the papers, organized my notes, and wiped down my laptop. It felt good, like clearing the path before starting a long journey. Then, I picked one small problem, not the biggest, scariest one, but a manageable one. I remembered a confusing computer error message that had made me want to scream. This time, instead of feeling overwhelmed, I decided to tackle it like a detective. I opened my laptop, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. My heart still thumped a little, but it was a different kind of thump, a hopeful one. I searched online for answers, tried different solutions, and even watched a few more tutorial videos. It wasn't easy. There were still moments of frustration, moments where I wanted to throw my hands up. But this time, I didn't. I paused, took a deep breath, and tried again. It felt like pushing a heavy rock uphill, but with each tiny push, I knew I was moving forward. This wasn't about quick fixes, it was about steady effort, guided by that small but persistent spark of hope. I was ready to face the dragons, one tiny flame at a time. Starting fresh with a clean table and a hopeful heart, I changed my way of working. Instead of trying to fix everything at once and getting lost in the big mess, I worked on small parts of the problem, one by one, like building blocks. I picked the tiny computer error I had thought about, and instead of letting it scare me, I broke it down. First, I searched for what the error code meant. Then, I looked for common ways to fix it. Each little piece of information I found was like adding a small, colorful block to my tower. It wasn't always easy, and sometimes a block wouldn't fit right away. There were moments when I still felt a tiny bit of that old frustration creeping back. But this time, I reminded myself to just focus on the one block in my hand, not the whole tower. I'd try one solution, and if it didn't work, I'd take a short break, then come back and try another. It was like a game, where each small success, like fixing a tiny glitch or understanding a confusing instruction, gave me a little ding of victory. Slowly, very slowly, the blocks started to connect. The confusing parts of my project began to make a little more sense. I fixed that first error, then moved on to the next. The project still looked huge, but now I could see that it was made of many small, fixable parts. Each solved problem was like laying a solid foundation for the next step. My progress was slow, like a snail moving across a leaf, but it was steady, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of quiet accomplishment growing inside me. As I slowly pieced together the parts of my project, I realized something important. I didn't have to do it all alone. Even a brave knight sometimes needs their squire. This is when help from others started to come, like a team pulling a wagon together, making the journey much lighter. First, I reached out to Lily, my best friend. Instead of just making excuses, I told her about the hard parts. Her response was immediate and warm. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" she asked gently. Lily might not know much about computers, but she's super organized. She offered to help me sort my papers and make a clear list of all the problems I still needed to solve. Just having her sit next to me, quietly working on sorting, made the task feel less lonely and much less scary. Then, I remembered my Uncle Joe, who works with computers all day. I was shy to ask, but I sent him a quick message explaining my biggest computer problem. He called me back a few hours later, full of helpful ideas. He didn't just give me the answers, he showed me how to find them myself, explaining things in simple ways that made so much more sense than the complicated guides online. He even sent me a link to a helpful video. Their support was like strong ropes on my wagon, helping me pull it up the hill. I was no longer a single ant trying to build an entire anthill. I had a whole colony helping me. Each bit of help, big or small, added to my strength and helped my project move forward. With Lily's help organizing my thoughts and Uncle Joe's smart advice for the tricky computer parts, I kept working, taking those small steps forward. It was still hard, like climbing a very long staircase, but now I had a clearer path and friendly hands to help me up. Then, one sunny afternoon, it happened. Suddenly, something good happened, like sunshine after a rainy day. I was working on the trickiest part of the project, a section that had been giving me nightmares for weeks. I had tried almost everything, and I was about to give up on it for the day. But I remembered Grandma's oak tree and Uncle Joe's patient words. So, I tried one more thing, a tiny change based on a comment I'd seen in an online forum. I clicked the run button, holding my breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, my screen flickered, and instead of the usual error message, a beautiful, perfect image appeared. It was exactly what I had been trying to create. The part of the project that had felt impossible for so long was finally working. A huge gasp escaped me, and then a wide smile spread across my face. It was like finding the last, most difficult piece of a puzzle and having it fit perfectly into place. I jumped up from my chair, cheering loudly. I wanted to call everyone I knew, but first, I just stood there, staring at the screen, letting the joy wash over me. The sunshine had truly broken through the clouds. My little seed had just sprouted its first real leaf. That moment, when the perfect image popped up on my screen, was like a huge burst of fireworks in my heart. The joy was immense, but even bigger was the feeling that came right after: pride. I felt very happy and proud that I didn't give up. It wasn't just about the project working, it was about me not quitting when things got tough, really tough. I remembered those dark days when I wanted to push everything into a box and forget about it. I remembered feeling like a deflated balloon, completely empty of hope. But I had pushed through. I had listened to Grandma's wise words, thought about my true purpose, and found that tiny spark of strength. I had asked for help, and I had taken those small, careful steps. Each of those choices had led me to this moment of triumph. My chest swelled with a warm, happy feeling. It wasn't a boastful pride, but a quiet, deep satisfaction. It was the kind of pride that makes you stand a little taller and smile a little wider. I felt proud of my effort, proud of my patience, and most of all, proud of my stubbornness to keep going. The project was still a work in progress, but this breakthrough, this proof that I could overcome the impossible, changed everything. It showed me that the real strength wasn't in never falling down, but in getting back up, even when it felt like you couldn't. This feeling was a reward sweeter than any finished project. The joy and pride from that big breakthrough settled into a quiet, lasting understanding. It was more than just fixing a computer problem, it was a life lesson, clear as a bell. I learned that even when things are hard, it's good to keep trying. This wasn't just a saying anymore, it was something I had lived, felt in my bones, and seen come true. I thought about the journey, from the bright excitement of the beginning, through the dark days of confusion and sadness, all the way to this moment of success. If I had stopped when I felt like a deflated balloon, I would have missed out on this amazing feeling. I would have missed the chance to see my dreams start to bloom. It taught me that sometimes, the hardest parts of a journey are the ones that teach you the most valuable lessons. It was like learning to ride a bike. You fall down, you get scraped knees, and you want to give up. But if you keep pedaling, keep trying, one day you're soaring down the street, feeling the wind in your hair, and you realize all those falls were worth it. This project was my bike, and I had finally learned to ride it through the tough spots. I understood that problems aren't there to stop you, but to make you stronger. They're like muscles that get bigger when you lift heavy things. This lesson, more than the project itself, was the real treasure I gained. It was a promise to myself to face future challenges not with fear, but with a steady heart and a will to keep trying. The lesson I learned, that powerful truth about never giving up, wasn't something I wanted to keep to myself. It felt too important, too valuable to hide away. So, now I tell everyone my story, hoping it helps them too. It's not about showing off, it's about sharing a light I found in the dark, hoping it can guide someone else. I started by telling Lily, who smiled and said, "I knew you could do it." Then I told Grandma, who just said, "See, my dear." Just like that old oak. Their words, which had helped me so much, now became part of the story I share. I talk about the big dream, the hard work, the confusing problems, and that moment I almost quit, feeling like a balloon losing air. I tell them about Grandma's wise voice, the little spark of hope, and how I took small steps with help from friends and family. It's amazing how many people have their own, almost quit, stories. When I share mine, their eyes light up, and they often tell me about a time they felt the same way. Sometimes, just hearing that someone else went through something hard and came out stronger is enough to give them a little push. It's like passing a warm candle flame from one person to another. I don't have all the answers for everyone's problems, but I have this story, a real-life example that says, keep going. You're stronger than you think. It makes my heart happy to think that my journey, with all its ups and downs, can now be a little beacon of hope for others. Sharing my story has become a joyful part of my life, a way to pass on the strength and hope I found. And if there's one simple message I want everyone to take away from my journey, it's this: keep going. My message is simple. Never give up on your dreams. Life will throw tough times your way, like big, dark clouds blocking the sun. You'll feel sad, confused, and sometimes you'll want to just curl up and stop. That's okay. It's okay to feel those feelings. But remember the little seed of your dream, and how it needs you to keep watering it, even when the ground feels dry and hard. Remember that big oak tree, standing tall after many storms. It didn't grow by wishing. It grew by pushing its roots deeper and reaching for the sky, no matter what. Your dreams are important. They are the bright stars that guide you. Don't let a few bumps in the road or a few tangled knots make you turn back. Ask for help if you need it. Break big problems into small pieces, and celebrate every tiny step forward. Even when it feels like you're pushing a huge rock uphill, every little push counts. You are stronger than you think, and you have more courage inside you than you know. So, keep going. Keep believing. Your amazing breakthrough might be just around the corner, waiting for you to take one more brave step. Never, ever give up on the wonderful things you want to achieve.